And we're back. It's time for another read aloud. And today I'm going to read to you Dragon Scales and Willow Leaves. Okay? Wonder what this book could be about. What do you think Dragon Scales and Willow Leaves is going to be about? We see two children, we see leaves, and we see a dragon. So I want you to predict. Predict means give your best guess off of what you know about what this book's going to be about. Do you have your prediction? Okay, great. Let's get started. So, Dragon Scales and Willow Leaves by Terryl Givens, illustrated by Andrew Portwood. Dragon Scales and Willow Leaves. Oh, there's my doggy. Jonathan and Rachel were twins, but they didn't look the same. And they didn't see things the same way either. One day, Jonathan went into the woods to hunt for buried treasure, and Rachel went to look for a robin's nest. No sooner had they entered the forest than shadows fell around them. Ahead, in a clearing, they saw a flicker of red and heard a stirring, rustling. Dragon! Cried Jonathan, and out flew his sword. It slashed through the air, striking and stabbing until the air was full of fluttering dragon scales. So who are our characters so far in this story? Who is in this story? You're right, it's Jonathan and Rachel. Jonathan and Rachel are our characters. Now, where is this story taking place so far? What is the setting? Well, I don't think it's told us the time of day. It just said one day. But if it's light outside, we can see the light. So it must be during the day. And where are they at? You're right, they're in the woods. So we know our characters, we know who is in the story, and now we know where the story is taking place. Rachel didn't see any dragon. She was watching the leaves of a weeping willow float softly down, making a colored carpet that shimmered and rustled in the breeze. I want you to think about, why do you think Rachel's not seeing this dragon? Jonathan saw it. Jonathan fought it. Do you think, I want you to think about that. Why? Why is Jonathan seeing a dragon and why is Rachel just seeing a willow tree? Jonathan charged on ahead while Rachel stopped to pick a forget-me-not. The path beyond was quiet until the still was broken by shrieks and howls from the treetops high above. "Ambush!" yelled Jonathan. "We're being attacked by..." "Forest trolls!" From every branch of every tree they threw rocks and spears and waved their clubs, but Jonathan's shield was like a wall, and his sword like an angry bee, and they escaped unharmed. "We're safe now, Rachel," he whispered. What do you think Rachel's going to see? Do you think she's going to see the trolls? Rachel was smiling at some quarreling blue jays and frisky squirrels, who shook loose some pine needles and an occasional acorn. Let's think. Jonathan has seen a dragon. He's fought a dragon off. He's seen some angry trolls. But Rachel's only seen a willow tree and some squirrels and birds. Why do you think that is? I want you to keep thinking about that. Why do you think that is? Coming out of the dark forest, they took a shortcut across a rushing stream. But when they heard sloshing and slapping, they turned to face a... I want you to predict, what do you think they're going to face? What do you think Jonathan and Rachel are going to see? Let's find out. Pirate ship! Shouted Jonathan, and at once the ground shuddered with the roar of cannons, and the bursting bombs showered them with spray. Rachel didn't see any pirates. She had discovered some boisterous bullfrogs splashing their noisy way from rock to rock. What do you think boisterous means? We can use our context clues to figure out what boisterous means. It says Rachel didn't see any pirates. She had discovered some boisterous bullfrogs splashing their noisy way from rock to rock. This is their noisy way. Do we think that maybe noisy is a synonym for boisterous? A synonym means the words mean the same thing. And sometimes synonyms will help us figure out the meaning. So I think boisterous bullfrogs may be some noisy bullfrogs. What do you think? By now, Jonathan knew they had better make a run for home. But when they reached the hilltop, hundreds and thousands of tall figures with golden hair and suits of green blocked their way. What does it look like they are? Where are they at? What do you think Jonathan's going to see, though? What do you think? Any guesses? Vikings! Gasped Jonathan. Send me the mightiest of your warriors, he shouted. I am not afraid. The Vikings were so stunned that they froze in terror, while he and Rachel passed safely through. Look at the Viking spears. Do you notice a funny spear? I noticed a funny spear. Rachel wondered how the Vikings managed to hide so well among the countless rows of corn. With their ripe ears and golden tassels bending and nodding in the breeze. With his castle now in view, Jonathan ran to meet the 3 knights, who bowed and ushered him into the presence of the queen. Rachel didn't notice the knights or the queen. She was too happy to be home again. Who do you think Jonathan was seeing as the queen or the knights? And just in time for supper. So why do you think that Jonathan and Rachel were seeing things differently in the story? Do you think Jonathan was using his imagination? I think you're right. Jonathan was using his imagination. He was pretending that all those things were really cool adventures that he could go on. Do you like to pretend? Oh, I love to pretend. Pretending is so much fun. It's fun to use your imagination and get creative. And it's a great way to write a story. Using your imagination can make fantastic stories. And that's what I want you to do today. I want you to write me a story using your wildest imagination. Now I want you to think, is it okay to think differently? We saw that Rachel didn't see any of that stuff. She didn't use her imagination. She was just looking at the real things. But is it okay that they were thinking differently? Yes, it's called individuality. Individuality means you are yourself, you are your own individual. It is your thoughts, and it is okay to think differently than someone else. You don't have to share the same opinion or same thought about something. Everybody sees things a little differently. So, I want you to go write me a really cool imaginary story, or it's okay to write me a narrative about something, a story about your real life. It doesn't have to be made up. You are just as interesting as everything in this book. So I want you to write me a story, okay? And, as always, go take an AR test.